Today we're going to talk about macromolecules. Basically, macromolecules are another name for organic molecules, and they're what makes up a cell. So we consider them the building blocks of the cell. A macromolecule is a long chain, and they call it a polymer. One link on the chain would be considered a monomer, but as those monomers join together, they make up polymers, and the polymers turn into the macromolecules. One of the macromolecules, because there's four of them, the first one is carbohydrates. They're made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, and they're bound a certain way. Carbohydrates are basically the source of short-term energy. So if you were trying to run a race, that's why they say carbo load, because it will give you some short-term energy. There's different forms of carbohydrates, and the monomer of a carbohydrate is glucose. All carbohydrates can be found in sweet foods and in starches. Starches are long chains of glucose, while sugar is short chains of glucose. The next macromolecule is lipids. We talked a little bit about lipids when we talked about the phospholipid bilayer of the cell membrane. Lipids are made of the same things, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. They're just bound differently. They're more compact, the bonds between the carbon, hydrogen, and the oxygen. The source of lipids are going to be long-term energy sources, and lipids actually store a lot of our energy, while carbohydrates utilize that energy quickly. The monomers of lipids are fatty acids and glycerols. Examples of lipids are fats, waxes, and steroids. So anything that contains fat are lipids. Protein are major sources for cellular growth, made up of the element carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur. So protein is like a mixture of a lot of different elements, and it helps with growth and helps with major cell production, as we just learned. And where the proteins are made in the ribosome, and then those ribosomes are made of protein. So the cell creates proteins for everything. The monomers, or the ingredients for a protein, are amino acids. Proteins can be found in meats and in tissues, and proteins also there's a specialized protein that we're going to learn about called enzymes, but they're all in that category of proteins. Nucleic acid should sound familiar. We talk about DNA a little bit later, but in 7th grade you may have been learning a little bit about deoxyribonucleic acid. Nucleic acid are made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, nitrogen, and phosphorus. Synapse is what I call them. And the source of genetic material. So all nucleic acids provide genetic material. Nucleic acids also do other things, like ATP is a nucleic acid, and it gives energy to the cell. The monomer are called nucleotides, and nucleotides put together are going to make up a long chain of nucleic acids. Nucleic acids are found in the nucleus of a cell or in a nuclear region of a prokaryotic cell. Some common examples of a nucleic acid is DNA and RNA. And like I mentioned earlier, ATP is also a nucleic acid.